Bernard. That was us at the end of this episode.
Y'all are so lucky that we care so much about this being a upbeat, fun, hot mess of a podcast. I was a hot mess in a whole other way last night. I was fully crying. Fully, like ugly crying, not like, oh,
so cute.
Like, I was like, oh man.
It was, it's like one of those moments that like you weren't expecting to like hit the way it does, but it hits, and it's all because of that like music and the build up, and like
it's because I love Rose so much.
Yeah.
Like, I have not cried really yet in the series. Like I didn't cry when we find out that that Locke is in a wheelchair in like the fourth episode or whatever. Like I haven't cried really yet. All it took was the power of Rose.
Well, you have many a cry coming in the future because Lost loves making people cry.
I'm going to put this out there.
Yeah.
I was talking to Tyler and Allison in My Weekly Meltdown, and we were discussing The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Which, have you watched that?
I watched the first season and then half of the second season. And
I'm the same way, because once a certain character died, I was like, I don't like anybody. Like, I don't want to watch this anymore.
Yeah.
So I stopped watching. I fully made a dramatic statement, which is, I know, a shocker. Beth made a dramatic statement. I basically said, if this show ever decides to kill off Rose, I'm done. This podcast is over.
We're canceled.
We're canceling it. It's done. We're gonna move on to Golden Girl. No, I was kidding.
Yeah, well, like honestly, I'm in the same boat as you. Fucking Rose is such a great character, and like love Rose to death. Before we get into that, though,
we should probably introduce ourselves or whatever.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hot Mess Moments. We are a hot, messy podcast that review two of our favorite shows. My name is Dylan Zahner, also known as 8-Bit Dylan, and Lost is my favorite show, but I've never seen The Nanny.
And I'm Beth Dixon, also known as Augusta Wind 11 on all my social medias. And The Nanny is my favorite show, but I've never seen Lost before. So we decided to join forces as friends and watch each other's favorite shows for the first time. We do watch the shows together, with our mics muted, but our cameras on so we could see each other's reactions.
See each other cry.
See me cry. See both of us act up.
I cried too. I was like,
okay, I'm going to be 100% honest. I was so in the emotions, I didn't even notice that you cried last night.
Oh, yeah. I was crying. I was definitely crying.
I'm such a Leo. I'm like, I was having my moments. So I didn't notice you.
Well, I cried because I saw you crying, and you crying caused me to cry. And then I was just like, oh my God, it's so beautiful.
It really was. And it is funny too, because I can say that we do have similar moments, like with The Nanny. Like there will be times where I've seen the jokes a billion times. I still know they're coming and I still think they're funny, but then I'll look over at you and you'll be laughing. I'm like, yeah, it is funny, right? Yeah. And I'll laugh. So I get it. We kind of write off each other's energy. But the nice thing is we save our conversations for this podcast. So what you're going to get is an unadulterated look and view of my thoughts on what is happening in Lost Season 2, Episode 4.
Episode 4. Yeah, it's Everybody Hates Hugo.
Everybody Hates Hugo, which I was told before this episode was a controversial one. And I can understand why to a certain extent, but I don't think it was that bad of a controversy, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, it honestly wasn't like too bad. I didn't think it was that controversial when it first aired. Yeah. Also, is there a way you can turn up your mic just a hair or get a little closer?
Yeah. How's this?
Oh, 10 out of 10.
Okay. I had turned my mic down for a meeting earlier today.
It's chef's kiss. It's like food in the pantry. Oh my gosh. I wanted, though, before we get into talking about Lost real quick, how's life? How's New York treating ya?
New York's treating me. I've not been outside in 2 days. I've been so in just working really, really hard. Yeah. But New York is doing pretty well. We're slowly transitioning into somewhat of a fall weather, but I'm going to be honest with you, Dylan.
Yeah.
I completely forgot that I was moving to a coastal city, which means humidity,
Oh,
even in
true.
October. And so I will look at my watch and go, oh, 66 degrees outside. That's Beth's sweet spot. And then I'll walk outside in jeans and I'll be like, but did you feel like having a sweat on you? Like, it is so gross to
You
me
want a
sometimes.
second shower, baby?
Did you want to shower again?
Yeah, I thankfully don't feel that because
Yeah.
it gets pretty humid here in Missouri, but we're finally getting to a point where the humidity is cut off. And now we're starting to get those like Midwest fall vibes. It's starting to get a little chilly at
This is
night.
why I
The
can't
trees are
wait
turning
to go
orangey.
up north next week where there's
Yeah.
not humidity and the trees are changing. And I'm going to be going up during peak. Actually, this week is normally peak foliage up in the North Country of New York.
Ooh, okay.
So I'm probably going to miss the tail end of peak foliage. But I get to drive through the Adirondacks, which is the
That'll
largest
be
state
pretty.
park in any of the states. I don't know if people are aware of that. It's the
I
largest
don't know if
state
you
park.
know.
But
If
it's
you're
really
like the
pretty.
size queen.
So it's pretty big. The mountains are small. They're like big hills. But this park is big, so.
Well, it's fun because you'll get to see oh my God, I can't say the name of it.
Adirondack. Yep,
There we go.
Adirondack.
You'll get to go through the Adirondack, see like the fall vibes in the Northeast, and then you'll get to come here and you'll get to see the Midwest fall vibes.
I'm
Beth's
really
gonna be visiting.
excited. I'm so excited to come visit you for two reasons. One, obviously I get to see you. But two, I have never been to Missouri before. I've actually, the only states west of the Mississippi that I've been to is California. And Louisiana because it's on the bottom or whatever, but I'm not going to count
any
that.
of the others.
I have not been to any other state west of the Mississippi.
Damn.
But I've been
okay.
to all the states except for Kentucky, Tennessee, and Alabama east of the Mississippi. So I've been to every other state east of the Mississippi except for those three. So this is my first time besides California. And this is like, can I be honest too? I know that Ohio and Indiana and Michigan and Illinois are considered Midwest. No, this is like, I'm excited to be in what I consider like the true gateway to the West.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like
this is
the
like
true Midwest. Like this is Midwest.
Like
so
you definitely get like Midwest culture in Michigan and in like Wisconsin and stuff like that. But it's also like it is Midwest like culturally, but like it doesn't sometimes feel like the Midwest. It just feels like you're in like the northern part of the United States.
Totally.
Especially like with weather and stuff like that, it gets chillier up there much sooner. But the Midwest, most of the Midwest is a blur. Like all of the states and stuff, it's a lot of corn. It's a lot of the same culture. A lot of one thing that you'll know in the Midwest. I mean, most places say this, like you get 4 seasons. It literally like can snow one second and then it like rains the next. I'm like, yeah, that's every fucking city in the United States. Shut up.
Yeah, that's the North Country of New York. Here's the thing. Okay. Upstate New York, when I say North Country is like 5 specific counties in New York, which are at the top of New York State. Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, you mean like Buffalo? Fuck off with that. First of all, look at a map and look at where Buffalo is. If you think that's the top of New York State, you need to learn what the shape of a gun looks like because it's at the hole. That is where Buffalo is. I'm up here. There's 5 hours north of Buffalo. That's where I'm at. Ugh, sorry, that just got me mad.
Let them know.
Yes, you better look at a map and educate yourself. But secondly,
geography.
While the season of winter lasts like 8 months up there, and the season of spring lasts like 3 months, and then summer's 2. We still get 4 seasons. It's just they're all condensed in some areas.
Well, that's just like a thing that I hear all the time is like a bunch of people being like, you like the seasons change like every like few minutes, and I'm like, shut up! Like literally that you know how big the United States is? That literally is like nearly like 80% of the United States.
Yes.
But what I do love about the Midwest is everything is super spread out like crazy. So what's really neat is unlike most coastal cities where everything is like stacked together and everything's like vertical, in the Midwest, you get like this part of town, which is like 20 minutes away, is very different from this part of town, which is like 15 minutes away, which is different from this part of town, which is like 30 minutes away, because everything is so sprawled out. It's just so much land to cover.
And
So,
that's what I think is going to be really interesting too, to compare this, because I've traveled extensively, not only in cities and suburbs, but in a lot of country, and especially in the Northeast. Like you look at the state of like Vermont, their largest city is Burlington, which is not even the size of Syracuse, which is a small city in New York State, right? So they're just exclusively spaced with mountains and farms and such, right? And I can't wait to compare like what is a Vermont country like versus an upstate New York versus Missouri. Like that's what I'm excited about.
I don't know if you're going to enjoy it. There's a lot of trees. I will say that there's a ton of trees out here. So it's going to be a good time. I can't wait. Beth's going to come in here. Depending on the timeline, we might record an episode while we're here. I'll have to like finagle how my desk looks, but maybe we might be doing a podcast together here in the office. It's going to be a ton of fun. But let's get into this episode because we have a lot to talk about. This is Lost, Season 2, Episode 4. Everybody hates Hugo.
I know I do.
You better take that back.
That's a joke. I really like Hugo.
He's so good. He's such a good character. I will say, hands down, and Lost, he is one of my favorite characters.
I will say this. I still absolutely do not understand the fan base for Charlie. Even in this episode, I would love nothing more for him to just not exist. But I love Hugo. I do think a lot of the things that we have been critical with him in the past, like make a little bit more sense contextually here. He is genuinely somebody who cares about other people. He's genuinely somebody who cares about like the betterment of everyone around him. And we saw that a little bit in Numbers in last season, where he's talking like he's trying to buy his mom a house and he's trying to get he's trying to give it back to people in his own family. But even that is somewhat self-serving. So I do like that the overall goal and mission of him in this episode is almost to right the wrongs of what he wasn't able to do when he had all the power and money and such like that beforehand, and really make a concerted effort to make the right decision on behalf of everybody, make everybody happy. So we'll get into what that entails and such. But I think for this particular episode, it makes sense to kind of go along. Like there's the tail end plane storyline. Yeah. There's the Hugo in the present day bunker storyline with him and Rose and like, you know, and Locke and like what their jobs are. And then the flashback. So I think what I'd like to do is what were we going to say?
I was going to say, do you want to try? Because normally what we'll do is we'll recap little by little. Do you want to instead just talk broadly and see how that goes for us, where we don't break down every single scene? Instead, we're just
I would love that
broadly about the time, like the plot line of the specific episode. Talk about the elements that are at play, maybe the questions that we have, and stuff like that.
I think that makes more sense because especially with so much to talk about, and we're starting to get to a point where I can tell like the lore and the characters are going to get more and more in depth. Yeah. So it's more important to look at like what are the important highlights rather than, and then this person picked their nose, but that person saw them pick their nose. Yeah. So they said, ew, and then it moves on. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm totally down for that.
So let's start then, like you said, let's start with the tail section of the plane, because that does play a huge part into this episode. Oh, wait. Also, you didn't give a rating. What was your rating for this episode?
So my rating for this episode is like, I'm going to go the Dylan Zahner route here and do an 8.5 out of 10. I really, really liked this episode. there are elements that aren't making sense to me with how people are treating some of the people here, which is why I dock it about 1.5 points. I just don't, this is something that I consistently call out. If you've been listening for a while, there are times where I feel like, and I think this has to do that with having different writers writing different episodes.
Yes.
There's a lack of consistency. And like, for example, like, so for this tail end of the plane, and we've got Jin, Michael, and Sawyer in this pit being held hostage, right?
Yeah.
Sawyer's wound is clearly infected.
Yeah, there's like, it's gnarly looking. Like,
It's
that is
gnarly
not
which,
cute.
again, I know that we shouldn't be playing so much of like, let's pull out the real medical portion of this, but he should be much weaker. Like that kind of infection, he should not be able to move his arm at all. He shouldn't be able to just like, oh, ow, that kind of hurt. Like, no. His whole body should be weak because his whole body's energy should be fighting that infection. Like, that does not look good. So that really makes me question, like, why aren't Michael and Jin being like, dude, like his arm is fucked. Like, don't hit him, and like provide some context. Also, if you're the people on the tail end of the plane and you finally kind of believe that they're like, why are you still treating them like shit? Why are you punching them? I did think that throwing the rock at Sawyer's head was kind of funny.
So good.
I fucking
so
love
funny.
that. But I do think that I don't know. There's a lot there that seems somewhat inconsistent, like with what his injuries and such are.
I think you pose a lot of good questions that were being asked in this episode, where it's like I think just as a whole at this point in the show, it's so inconsistent with like the healing rate of people, because sometimes someone will get sick or someone will have withdrawal symptoms like Charlie, and they're gone within like 2 to 3 days. Yeah. Which we should also talk about later when we talk about Charlie, whether or not we think he's been doing drugs or not, because I don't think he has been, because he hasn't been showing any of the signs or symptoms. But maybe he's like, I don't know. We'll talk about that when we get
we'll
there.
talk about it.
But with this specific wound, what I saw was, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'd have to go back and see, the wound itself looked like it was still open. Mm-hmm. But it was healing, like as if like new skin was growing into the wound, but it was definitely infected.
Well, because he fucking took dirty fingers and went inside and pulled out a bullet and then went in the ocean.
You don't do that when you get hurt.
Like first, and that's the other thing. I know I called this out a few episodes ago. Where the fuck is him yelling in pain from salt water in an open wound?
Agreed.
Like there's a lot here that's just not consistent with what should be happening, right? So you just have to like some of this I have to remember, like, okay, take with a grain of salt. But I have a hard time, and I don't necessarily want you to answer this for me unless you're like, actually, this has no bearing and we could just
I'll let you know.
Or whatever. But like, I have a hard time deciphering if this is lazy writing or if this is inherently something that has to do with the island that we have kind of like, we're just not, haven't gotten to that point yet that we're discussing.
I would say it is likely 60% lazy writing and 40% of them using the healing factor of the island to whatever discretion they want.
So the healing factor is a part of the island, but it's one that's maybe used for a writing convenience more so than for a plot device.
I think it is. Okay. Like there is more to it. Like,
that makes sense. And
it's it's just like the rate is never specified, so the writers can always like fill that gap with whatever they want. Like fucking Charlie got gunpowder on his face and it's seemingly like healed. There's literally not even a scar.
I'm sorry, these people have been on an island for what, 40 some days? Somebody got gored by a boar on like day 2. That should still be a mark. I'm sorry.
I agreed. That should. Well,
that was on Michael's leg, right? Or Charlie's leg.
You know what's also like so inconsistent is the fact that like if they have a healing rate, wouldn't their tattoos like have issues as well? Because like your body
fading away and such.
Yeah, like they should be fading away, or see. There's like no.
Shouldn't the doctor have a sense of, oh wow, this is different than what I'm used to? People's wounds are healing. The woman gave birth. And she's just fine.
She was like
Postpartum doing well.
she was like straight up walking down the beach. She was fully in like a Hallmark commercial, like walking down that beach.
She was the inspiration for the Gillette Venus razor commercial.
Yes.
I'm your Venus. I'm your fire, your desire.
She walked down that beach and I was like, is this an Instagram ad? Is that what I'm seeing right now? Because that's the vibe I was getting.
Can I tell you one of my biggest issues with Lady Gaga's music in the 2010s?
You better watch what you say. I will come for you.
I guarantee you're going to agree with me on this.
Okay.
Guarantee. Well, there's two things. They both have to do the same exact song. Okay. In what world did Lady Gaga not think, I'm going to make a shit ton of money by doing product placement and making my song the new Venus commercial song? And I'm on the edge of glory.
Okay, you're right.
Okay?
You're right.
What a great, like everyone just being like, yeah, I'm on the edge. Gillette Venus, be on the edge of glory. Like, come on, that'd been so good. Or she could have gone to shit Quattro, gone to the like, forget your Venus, your desire, whatever song. I'm going to go to the competition. That would have been great. Second thing with that song, when she did the Super Bowl performance and she jumped from the roof of the stadium, it would have been amazing if she went, I'm on the edge, and then jumped.
I love that, like, years later, you are creative directing Lady Gaga.
I have been creative directing that since she jumped. I literally looked at all my friends, all the gays, theys, and she's around me, and I went,
yeah.
She should have said, I'm on the edge, and then jumped.
Agreed.
And
no,
I'm
right there with you.
Like, you know what? That's true.
Yeah.
But can you shut up because she's performing? And I'm like, no!
You're like, I need to let you know.
This makes me mad. Lady Gaga, if you ever watch this, know that I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at, like,
she hates
just
you.
hire me. I got you.
Honestly, Lady Gaga could literally walk in the room and tell me whatever the hell she wants, and I would accept it with open arms.
Lady Gaga, if you can get me sponsored by Polar Seltzer.
I fucking hate you. Oh my God.
Imagine this reaches Lady Gaga and she's just like, oh, look at these two little monsters. And I'm just like, can you get me sponsored by a seltzer company?
Hey, look at these two little monsters. This little biatch won't stop fucking creative directing for me. She's asking for a sponsorship.
And she has the gall to ask for a sponsorship for something I have nothing to do with.
Okay, wait. This brings up a question. I know we're going all over the place, but whatever. Do you think that there's a Dharma seltzer? Do you think seltzers were real? I don't think seltzers were that big back then.
No, they were still called sparkling water for the most part there, right? And I would only think of like, you would have like the sparkling Poland. Although I don't know if you have Poland out where you are. Water,
I don't
Poland?
think so.
No. So you'd have your Perrier's and like all those different kinds of things, right? But for the most part, wasn't that big. Millennials just once again, they said, all we want are spritzers. So give us some seltzer, give us some wine. And now here we are.
And now look at us thriving. See you in another life, brother.
See you in another life, brother. If I were Jack, that phrase would just like be so traumatic for me to ever hear.
It'd be like a trigger. The minute you say brother, he's like, ah! He starts
or I'll
crying.
See you in another life. That means like, oh shit, where am I going to see you next? This was awful.
Yeah. He's like, God damn it. Okay. So wait, back to the tail section of the plane.
Okay, yeah.
So what is your theory on what you think on two factors?
Yeah.
One, by the end of the tail plane section, we learned that there were originally 23 survivors,
which is a number.
It is a number. And when they get there, there is definitely not 23 people.
There's like 3 people in there.
Yeah. So like a shit ton of them are gone. So theory on that. And then theory also, why do you think they're so hesitant on Jin, Michael, and Sawyer to the point where they've put them in this pit and they're like. So
I think the main answer here is that they are infected. The people, these are the people, they have gotten sick. And because you had to get to know people, I think, like the way that it was described in season 1 by Rousseau and all these other people, is just that like it kind of becomes a sickness that like creeps up on people, and like you notice after a while that people aren't acting normally. So
Yeah.
you have to kind of get to know people. So it's safe to put them in a pit and get to know them and throw Ana Lucia, who's clearly like really brave or whatever, in there to do fact-finding missions. She can figure out if they're sick or not, because we don't know what the sickness is, if it even exists, or how it manifests itself. So it could be like maybe they talk in a weird way. Maybe the things that they are focused on in a sickness, like I've kept talking about Bird Box, but like, you know how like the people who are resistant into the fact that they don't want to kill themselves by whatever being it is that's around outside are like, oh, praise be, like look up at the sky, see the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. Like the way they talk. Oh, this motherfucking thing's so great. Like,
come here, hot lips.
Oh my God. No, Sawyer. No, bad boy.
Bad Sawyer.
If he calls her hot lips again, I'm going to literally want to shove a gun up his butt and pull the trigger. And be like, no.
So gross.
What is that? Stop. Can we stop? This is specifically going out to men, but I'm just going to say it in general. Can you stop?
Just stop.
Can you stop saying, we talked about this on my weekly meltdown tonight too.
Yeah.
Jeff Probst has started being like, dig woman, dig. And I'm like, you know what?
Maybe you should just go back to saying man.
Did you just say dig?
Yeah.
You don't need to say woman.
Dig, woman, dig.
The amount of time we spent talking about that. And like, come on, woman.
He's like, you better vote, wench.
Oh my God. If Jeff Probst ever said wench, I'd lose it so bad. I said,
you better pick that rice up, hag. Like,
come on, dig, don't fall in. You almost fell in, wench. So good. I was saying it would have been amazing. Like the 3 competition reality shows I spend so much time watching are Big Brother, Survivor, and RuPaul's Drag Race, and they have 3 very different hosts. And I was like, just for once, I want to see RuPaul Charles hosting one episode of Survivor and being like, you better sissy that walk across that rope to get that coin.
Girl,
you know what I mean?
If you can't walk across this beam, you can't walk in stilettos.
And then instead of like while they're snuffing the torch, RuPaul would be like, the tribe has spoken. But if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else? Can I get an amen? And then everyone's like, amen. And she's like, okay, go to Ponderosa.
Yeah.
And then we were like, how great would it be if Jeff had to do an episode of Drag Race?
I would honestly might be better.
I think it'd be amazing. Him just being like, dig, woman, dig. Yes, like,
put on your contour.
Yes, just you better work. It's just so good. And then we were like, Julie would be like, with her newfound religion, just being like, remember that you're a child of God. So anyway,
they really are very different.
They're super different. But anyway, bringing this all back to the point is like, Sawyer, can you just never say stuff like that?
Yeah.
No. But regardless, so I think my theory is that they got sick, and either they've been banished or they have been killed.
Okay, yeah, because Ana Lucia, when she arrived, seemed very surprised. She was just like, sorry, she wasn't surprised. Like I thought you said there was 23 of us, and then she says there were. And like the way she says it could either mean there should be 23 people here, or it could mean I try to not talk about this. There were 23 of us.
I got the sense of her being like, yeah, there were.
Oh, okay.
That's how I got it.
It was very ambiguous on purpose, like how that
mine was like there were 9 more. You want to join them numbers, boy? Get in line. Do what I say.
And now I need your thoughts on some of the tail section people that we've met so far. Initial thoughts on them. What do you think we're going to learn from them? Because you do learn more about the tail section people, which is great.
I figured.
So I'm going to name a character and then tell me your initial thoughts of them.
Okay.
First off, obviously, Ana Lucia.
Okay. She is everything I want Kate to be. So thank God.
Yep.
I mean, thank God we have a woman who's just gonna, not that she's right. Like that's what I want to put out there, that just because I want a strong woman doesn't mean that a strong woman always has to be right. I don't think that she's necessarily right in how she's handling everything, especially with Sawyer. Like
Yeah.
the dude is clearly an asshole. And you're just feeding into him at that point. But he's also very injured and very sick. So like you can't really, like, what are you hoping to get out of that, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. Second, I think that she's tougher. She's inherently tough, but I feel like the island has made her need to be like she is. Like we are getting two very different types of island communities. You have, the front part of the plane or the middle part. I don't even know the middle part, I guess, of the plane.
No, because it'd be the middle part is
Excuse me.
the people that we know. The front part of the plane was the fuselage that we saw the pilot die in.
Right. So this is the middle part is what I'm talking about, is like the other community with the Jack and Locke and all that stuff, right? That is much more kumbaya, where even though there's the leaders who are clearly leading it, like people generally can do what they want.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
here I'm getting a sense that the island has treated them very differently. So out of necessity, it's like a dictatorship where Ana Lucia is like, we're doing it this way.
Yeah.
So that's my impression of her. I think that she's inherently strong, but I think that no.
What?
I just thought of it. If they meet her up with Jack and Kate and there is a love triangle there, it's just gonna ruin it.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. I'm only gonna name characters that were named.
Okay.
So next up is Libby.
Okay, so she's the one that said that there were 23 people.
You didn't get to hear a lot about her, but what do you think?
She's definitely okay. She kind of reminds me more of like a Sun kind of character who like is clearly out doing things with everybody else, not staying back in a shelter. But doesn't necessarily have the strongest voice in the group, is kind of more of a follower, that kind of thing, but can do little things on her own. Like, I feel like she must have a role other than let me just walk around. So she must have a strength that is like, she's good at gathering or she's good at something. Like, otherwise, why would she leave the cave?
Totally.
Should we call it a bunker? I don't really know what to call it.
Did you notice that it was one of the stations? It was it had an arrow symbol on it.
Yeah. So
it's one of the Dharma
I guess it's a
stations.
Bunker station.
It is. It seems to be more of a bunker. Yes. Okay. It's not like a full on hatch situation.
Right. Yeah. So yeah.
It also was cleared out. There was like nothing in there. It was like literally a barren like bunker of sorts.
Yeah.
And then lastly, we have to talk about Bernard. Thoughts on Bernard?
First of all, Rose, you beautiful son of a bitch. You knew it. You knew he was okay.
Yeah.
But now I can't help but feel like, Bernard, didn't you feel that Rose was okay? Because she felt you were okay.
Oh.
So do you not love her as much as she loves you? Huh? No, I'm just kidding. That is not at all how I felt.
Can you imagine if that's the route they go down? That would be terrible.
They just want to ruin Rose if they do it that, I think it's no secret that Rose is my favorite character on the show, and she's been in like 3 episodes.
She's great. She's rootable. Fantastic. She's got her shit together. She has a very like calm head about things, and she doesn't need to get involved unless she just
wanted to do laundry.
Yeah, she just wanted to do fucking laundry. Let her do laundry.
Man. Yeah. But I think he's clearly I can already get this sense from that Rose is more of his rock, and Rose is more capable of being alone than he is. And so this union or reunion will be much better for his survival. I think but might be worse for hers in a weird way.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is when you are in a situation that is really stressful and you have to not just think about yourself in a time of like stress, that can absolutely mess with your decision-making skills. So he will always, I have this feeling, inherently always think about what's right for her. And I think that she has kind of gotten to a place where she has had to think for herself a little bit more.
Okay.
And I don't know. I'm not saying that she's going to turn on her husband. That's not at all what I'm saying. But I'm thinking that like the stress
She's
of having him
Among
too.
Us imposters him. Yeah.
Slice.
Yeah. So that basically covers the tail section.
Yeah.
Let's go into then the let's do the let's do the flashbacks and the present day together, because
Okay.
in for the first time in Lost, we see it constantly go back and forth between flashback to present day, because they're so ingrained. And I think that's what started the emotional thread for me, was like seeing that moment where Hurley's life changes in the flashback compared to how he's built up so many walls in the present day because he's so scared of change. He does not want to be the guy that is the decider of fate, especially with food for these people, to the point where he is willing to blow up food because he's so afraid to be that guy.
Yeah.
It's like, there's so much to talk about here.
I think, can I be honest? I don't think there's a lot to talk about other than that. It's like the setup for that last scene for the flashback portion, right?
Yeah.
It's basically
the flashbacks. Yeah. The flashbacks don't have much.
The flashbacks are like basically he wins the lottery. He keeps it a secret for a long time. He doesn't claim the money. He quits his job because he's getting yelled at. His friend, who's also quits his job, they have a really fun day where they do a whole bunch of like really stupid fun things before they have to face the real world tomorrow. And the last stop that they make that night is at a gas station where the news crew is there to interview the people who like, oh, we sold the winning ticket. And oh, lo and behold, there he is. And his friend basically goes like, you can tell that there's like a jealousy. There's why haven't you told me? Like there's a lot of emotions there that I think are kind of, I'm going to be honest, I think that's a bad friend.
Yeah, so I want to get your thoughts on something real quick.
Yeah.
Because this might put into context the numbers a bit.
Okay.
Because we've shown that some people don't believe Hurley, that the numbers bring bad luck.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that before Hurley claims the money, his life was actually going pretty well. He had a pretty good string of really good luck. He was on the up and up. He was going to go on a date with this girl. His friend, I'm going to put air quotes on that, seemed to like really trust him, and they were like really like connected at the hip. And ever since he got the money, he has since had a string of bad luck, which he associates with the numbers.
Are you literally taking me to 9th grade English with the pearl where money is the root of all evil?
No, what I'm trying to say is, do you think, I know what you're talking about though, but do you think that, I want your thoughts, do you think the numbers are actually bad luck, or do you think Hurley has associated the numbers as the cause of the downfall of his life instead of taking ownership for the fact that maybe his life wasn't meant to have all this money, and like adding money into the equation really did ruin things. And now that he doesn't have to worry about money anymore, because he's crash landed on this island, this bad luck string has since ended, because in his mind, he's not worrying about it anymore.
I can't say if I believe that the numbers are good or bad or nothing, because we don't know enough about the numbers outside of what Hurley's experience has been. We see them a lot. We see that they're the numbers you have to input. And obviously there's a reason for that. And so until we know what that reason is, I'm not going to say whether or not they're good or bad. But I do think that we tend to manifest our own destinies and in our own realities. So if you think something is bad luck, and then like if I were to say, oh, I put my hair up in this bun, and that's bad luck to do at 11:31 p.m. and then I go and I stub my toe, I'm gonna be like, oh, well, it's because I put the bun in my hair.
Totally.
Like, so we like that kind of, okay, that was such a weird example, but you know what I mean? Like you manifest that kind of stuff. So I kind of feel like, and then it, like when it rains, it pours. There's that old saying that deaths happen in threes, right?
Oh yeah.
And like the amount of times that has happened to me in real life is like, oh
Same.
yeah, but this person, then this person died, and then that person died, and it's like one of those people is not like the other. You know what I mean? It's just like three people who you just happen to know, and because you put the meaning of three people, like there's
Yeah.
probably a fourth person somewhere. Like, what's your timeline? Are they all happening within a week? Or are they happen? Oh, that's all happened over the course of a month and a half. People die every day. It's not a weird phenomenon that people are dying.
Yeah.
It's just more of a coincidence that it happens to be people that you know. So, like, when you attach those meanings, they become self-fulfilling prophecies in a way. So, if he were to think, oh, the numbers are good luck, they brought me this money, but the
Yeah.
money is the bad luck, then
Mhm.
maybe the numbers have a different meaning for him, you know?
That's speaking facts, girl. Speaking facts.
And that's, again, on ninth grade English. Thank you.
That's on the pearl. So let's then talk about the present day stuff and this dilemma that Hurley is in. So it seems like since the last episode, jobs have been given out to some of the people who know about the hatch. Some of them are on button pushing duty, and some of them are on inventory duty. And then some of them are on, I don't know what the fuck Locke's doing anymore. Like Locke's just like walking
cleaning the
woods.
guns. He has to convince people to do the buttons.
That's right. Yeah.
That's his main thing, is to convince people to do the button. And then Saeed and Jack are trying to explore the bunker, especially like what's behind the concrete walls and all that kind of stuff. And so I want to point that out. If we can start with that, for example.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm with Saeed on this. People don't put concrete over nothing.
Yeah. Like that. That's weird. Like, why would they do
also,
go into this length?
There's a magnetic pull. Who knows what kind of electromagnetic waves, what kind of radiation, what kind of shit might be happening. That's why it probably says quarantine underneath, because you're damning whoever's down there to dying a very long, painful death from like cancer or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what, like if they had a Geiger counter, I would not be shocked if all of a sudden they're like, as they like go crazy. You know what I mean? So I truly sit back and I'm like, why are we trying to break the concrete?
Yeah, it's like the motivation is a bit weird here. I know that they talk about like Saeed's theory that there is a geothermal generator behind the wall, because he's like, something has to power this the station. But
clearly, like, why aren't they thinking it could be nuclear?
I mean, it could be, but nuclear requires like a lot of upkeep. So like someone would have to be in there like doing stuff.
Excuse me. The island is its own entity here.
Truth. And they needed an excuse to also see Kate come out of the shower.
Honestly, I'm gonna say something right now. Kate is my LVP for this episode.
Go in. Tell me why.
Like, first of all,
she's useless.
Useless in this episode. Secondly, all she does is entitled things this entire time.
Yeah.
Like she goes in and goes, "Where's the shampoo? Okay, great, thanks." I'm sorry, did anybody else get a shower? No.
Right.
Number two, Hurley was trying to tell you, no, you just took it anyway. You know what his job is. You're just being a fucking entitled bitch. Like, I was so pissed with her. And then she's like, you could use a shower too. Well, everyone could use a fucking shower.
Yeah, we haven't showered in like over a month.
Not everyone. You take one shower, you think you're better than everybody else. Like, I think you should shower too. No shit, do you need to shower? She's 100% so useless in this episode. I'm like, could not handle her.
And then the worst part is seeing her at the very end enjoying a feast with Jack.
Off.
She's just like, she's like knocks away his fork with her fork. She's like, fucking stop. I want food.
This was mine. You know what was also not supposed to? I'll leave the shampoo in there. Yeah, it's not yours.
Yeah.
It's not yours. Jeez.
It's a mess. But what are your thoughts on this Hurley Rose like fun relationship that we see kind of blossom between the both of them?
You know what I think is great is that in this episode, I don't think he thought of her like this before this episode, but I think he's starting to see the aspects of his mother that he might miss in Rose.
Totally.
This idea of like, you know, an older woman who can kind of put him in his place a little bit, but also is somebody he can lean on. Like, I think I like that his initial reason of why he brings her is because she doesn't care about what's in the hatch.
Which is, I think it's true.
I think that's great.
And she's just like, okay. Like,
I have to do laundry. And he's like,
Yeah.
I have something that can help with that. And then he doesn't. So he just basically brings her in false pretenses like, oh, yeah, come on over. So I think that she is the right person for him, right? For that role. And she, I think, is the one that probably puts it in his head that's like, okay, why don't we just share all the food with everybody now? Because clearly she's like the one who stops him from blowing it all up with dynamite. Also, like,
very, very crazy reaction to that. Like, not crazy, but like for 0 to 100, buddy.
I just also like, did you see me when we were watching that part when he's like reaching in and going like, trying to find the dynamite? I was like, oh, he's going to blow off his hand. He's going to blow off his hand. He didn't. But also I'm just still stuck on the fact that the science teacher chose the most corroded portion of the dynamite.
Arts, you fucking idiot.
Oh, Arts, you stupid asshole.
Yeah.
May you rest in peace.
May you rest in pieces. It's true though.
It's true. Yeah. So anyway, I legitimately thought that I didn't think he would die, but I had this moment of like, oh man, he's gonna like blow off an arm. It's gonna be so stupid. And also like, why are we blowing up something that we could be using for shelter? Like,
yeah, his thought process, I think, in that moment was he wasn't thinking clearly, and it was just like, I don't like change. And I don't want to mess up this.
I would have loved it if Saeed walked in there and went, actually, I could use that to get through the concrete.
Yeah. Oh my God. Don't give Jack ideas. Jesus.
I will say, out of a scale of 1 to 10 of how many times I wanted to punch him, 1 to 10. Today was close to, it was only like 1. So this was an okay Jack episode.
And I will say, as much as douchey as his outfit was, he looked very hot in the sleeveless shirt that he was wearing today. It was very different. They all, if you notice, everyone was wearing something different. It is as if everyone has magically gotten a new set of clothing.
Did I not unmute at one point? Son is out there gardening, and I went, did she go to Kmart? Like, what is happening? It is a brand new set of khaki pants and a brand new white shirt.
Literally, Claire, Shannon, and fucking Son were an Instagram ad because they all had brand new outfits.
There was not a speck of dirt on them, which
there was not
actually, let's give props again to Rose because clearly she's doing wonders with that laundry.
She really is queen of laundry.
Queen of the laundry.
You can get anything out of those clothes. Yeah,
100%. She said, OxyClean, where? I'm gonna give you Rosy Clean.
I'm here for it, and I want, before we move on to like the message in the bottle section of the episode, when
the Gillette commercial came to an end?
Yes, the Gillette commercial. What are your thoughts on the button shifts that they're doing? Like, do you think, like, what are your predictions for like this season? What's going to happen? And then also, what are your thoughts on Locke seemingly accepting this role of like pressuring people to do things that like, it seems
Locke
odd.
is also on my LVP list for this. I mean, Kate was useless. I hated Locke more than I hated Jack in this episode.
He's just throwing wrenches in the plan, telling people secrets he's not supposed to say.
But he's also just like, he has no consideration for anybody else.
Yeah.
He's purely, I mean, we've known that he's more caring about what he wants.
He's like a very individualistic kind of person.
But it is, until this moment, manifested itself with some sort of like logic and empathy. And now that he has like a control of the situation, now that Jack has given in to like what he wanted to do, it's just like he's on his own power trip. Like, oh no, Hugo, you have to do this job. There's no leaving. Like, no, he actually doesn't have to do this job.
Yeah, he is like, definitely power hungry now. Or he's like abusing his power. And like, especially like him cleaning a gun,
branding a huge gun. Like, fuck that. Like, that's exactly what the issue is, right? So I just sit back and I'm like, you know, Locke, you're really losing points with me here, buddy, because You are too power hungry.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's great to have a character like Rose who like helps you like reset the palette of like how you're feeling about the characters, because she's not in a lot of episodes. So when you come in and you
Yeah.
have an inherently good, even-headed or level-headed, like empathetic personality who has faith and also has logic, like she's like a perfect person to bring in. I understand why she's not in every episode, and maybe they'll change that, but it's a good balancing act. She's like a sorbet. She like
Ooh.
cleanses the
Yeah,
palate a
cleanse the
little bit.
palate. She
So
is a
like
palate cleanser.
what I'm having such deja vu. Did we say this before?
I don't think so, but I just had deja vu when you just said deja vu.
Okay,
Cre-
listeners, if we had talked
Creepy.
about this before, call in. We'll be standing by.
I've got my phone ready.
For those that are listening only, we have our hands to our head.
Oh yeah. We've got these super high tech. We have iPhone 15s. Beep boop boop beep.
And it doesn't stand for like iPhone, like, like the Apple iPhone. It literally means like I am a phone now.
Yeah, because your hand is the phone.
Yeah. Boopity boop.
So
click.
I have to appreciate though that scene where Locke is okay, I have to appreciate all the scenes with Locke because they did such a great job of shooting him differently than they've ever shot him before, in the sense of normally, well, that's not true. So when he has this conversation with Charlie, he's like doing something else, and he's like also kind of laughing at Charlie, laughing off Charlie's concerns. And he really doesn't give a shit. The way that they are making him act is like, I don't care. And they purposely give Locke this really huge gun, obnoxiously huge gun, to start cleaning while having a conversation about like responsibilities and how Locke doesn't really have that many responsibilities, but he's wielding a big gun because he's got all this power now. And so like I loved the symbolism in these scenes with Locke, because it's like a way different Locke than we got in season 1.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see, because I can't remember everything that happens in season 2, to see what they do with Locke's character in season 2.
So other thing is they gave Locke a really clean white t-shirt.
They did.
I'm gonna say something. I thought Locke looked really hot in this episode. I thought Terry O'Quinn, I was like,
all right, come on, Terry.
Daddy right there. Like
with that big gun.
I didn't care about the gun portion. I'm not like somebody who gets turned on by that kind of stuff. But just like his tan and just like the angles of which they shot him, like he's like appearing physically strong. And I would actually like to draw a parallel.
Yeah.
If I may, when we were talking about like manifesting things and we create our own reality essentially. The same is said with him. Anytime that there's a lack of faith, all of a sudden his legs give out. So I think that, his legs get stronger here and he's in this power position now. Yeah. And now I feel like he's just going to feel like he's fulfilling his destiny, which means that he's not going to have any faltering of his legs. So in a similar way of like how Hugo is, this is how Locke is as a character that I'm noticing.
And then there's one more thing. It's not really that big of a deal. I loved the dream sequence at the beginning. I thought it was like really funny to see like Jin speaking like clear English with no accent. And I also, did you notice like the milk carton had Walt's face on it that said missing?
Yeah.
And
there's
then like
so many things.
The like chicken costume. But Jin says everything's going to change, like feeding into that fear for the episode of like, shit. This is like truly a nightmare for Hurley. I just wanted to talk about it. I thought it was really
cool. But yeah. And so talk about the message in a bottle portion.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. So Claire comes upon that, the messages in the bottle, and instead of like freaking out, she goes to Sun. Thoughts on that first off?
No. She goes to Shannon first.
Oh, true. She goes to Shannon and then they go to Sun.
And then they said, listen, we're going to go to Kohl's, pick up a new outfit.
Mama, we're going to look fierce as fuck going into
We're
that
going to pick
garden.
up Sun some clothes. And we're going to give it to her ahead of time. And then we're going to brainstorm how we're going to break it down when she's like dealing with her plants. And then we're going to go and be like, we found the bottle, but don't you look cute now?
And Sun's like,
and she's like, one less person to worry about, blah, 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 blah. Yeah,
oh my God. So then they have this conversation with Sun. It's very brief. It's not even a real conversation they have. It's just like
they go the here.
Yeah.
She gets the bottle.
And also Shannon is obnoxiously taller than Claire. Like I was like, is she in stilettos? Because she is like a full foot taller.
Maggie Grace is tall.
Yeah, she's like coming down swinging on him. But then we learn at the very end of the episode that Sun buries the notes and decides not to tell anyone about them.
Yep.
There's not much about, but I'm curious, like, do you think that this will have further implications in the future, her doing this?
I'm sure it will. I just don't know how. I think it's an interesting choice to make, because what is she trying to do? Save it for a rainy day and not worry people?
Yeah.
But other people already know, and we know Shannon can't keep a secret, so.
Oh, that's true. So maybe the beans will be spilled here.
She has to tell. No, you can't tell anybody except for Vincent. Okay. Anytime you want to tell a secret, you tell Vincent.
Tell it to Vincent. All right. So let's get into who is your MVP for this episode.
Okay. So as I said, my LVP is Kate. My MVP is Hugo.
Yes.
Even though I wanted to give it to Rose, I do have to give it to Hugo here. I have to give it to HURLEY.
He had a rough, bumpy start, but he really did a good job of showcasing his positive character traits and then also finding a really good solution to the food problem at the end. He said, we're already surviving, so this is just like, let's just enjoy this. And plus, like they said, it's only 3 months of food for like a single person.
Which is so interesting. So did Desmond know that he was running out of food and there wouldn't be much time for him to be left there on the island? Like, is this why he's so happy to... Oh, did I mention this before as a theory? And if I did, you can tell me to shut up. I think that Dharma never plans to have people actually show up, but instead plans to have all the shipwrecked and plane crashed people eventually become the people who are the button pushers. Like, I don't think that they actually were like, let's keep sending some scientists from down here down there. Yeah. I think that like their whole experiment is to see, will people continue this on when they're in like a more desperate situation, right?
Okay, yeah.
So
that makes sense.
I mean, Desmond gets into it because the guy who was doing it beforehand finds him and takes him and says, you got to do this with me. Yeah. And then that guy dies. And so Desmond's just like doing it by himself. And then he gets free of it and doesn't have to worry about it. So he can have like a somewhat normal sleep schedule, although he thinks the island's about to explode. And then they're now stuck doing it. And so I think it'll eventually continue to be that way until they figure out what it's about, what happens there, and if there's anything they can do to like work around the issue, which I have a feeling that's where it's going to head.
Yeah.
I feel like they're going to have like the Saeeds and Jackson Locks and all of them all are going to be like, okay, so now that we're doing this, let's do a little bit more exploration into this.
Yeah. So. That makes sense. And I want to know then your predictions for next week's episode. This is season 2, episode 5. It is called ... and Found. And it's the play Lost and Found.
Oh, that's cute. I think we're going to see a little bit of Walt next episode.
So you think it's a Walt-centric episode?
I don't think it's a Walt-centric episode. Okay. I think that we're going to see, like, even if you don't see him, I think that you're going to, like, get more of a clue of maybe about who the others are. And I think that's going to come from the tail end. I feel like the others have a better sense of what's happening from a disease others point of view than the other people do. And I think the other people have more of an idea of like Dharma.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I think that we keep them still separate for a long time. I could see this as like them being Michael, Jin, Sawyer, Ana Lucia, those kind of people, maybe putting together a trip to try to find the other group so that they could become one, like kind of colony again. But I could also say them, the tail end people being like, well, we had a big group before and they got infected, so we don't want to be around big people. So I don't know. I don't really know which way that's going to go. I think for the I think we're going to find more discoveries. I'm shocked that it's not somebody's job, like Jack's job, to be like, how about you read all the books that's there? Like, how about we do a little bit of going through all of the
Let's
pieces of
research. Let's do a little
information?
research
Like, how is
around
it?
here.
They're like, no, first we have to clean the guns and do an inventory of the food and make sure people are pressing the buttons. And then we're just going to go underneath and all the little vents and such. Like, no. Why is it somebody's job? That could have been Kate's job instead of her, like,
why were they
fingering
not
herself
like
in the shower.
Yeah, like, hey, let's all take fucking showers first off. Let's enjoy ourselves while we're here, and then let's figure shit out. It is a Jin and Sun centric episode.
Wait, weren't they on? What was the other one that was a play on in translation? Lost in translation.
Yeah, Lost in Translation, and there's this Lost and Found. Yeah,
that was also a Jin episode.
It was. So everyone that's listening in, make sure to watch episode 5 ... and Found. And we'll be back here on Thursday recapping and reviewing another episode of Lost. Now, if you all enjoy it, we might, going forward, stop doing play-by-play recaps and instead do like we did here, where we just like talk more generally about it. Plus, it allows us to like theorize and like.
And I think it makes more sense also for the nanny, because I don't know if we have to go scene by scene. I think we could talk about like, what is the plot? What were the funny moments? What are the outfits? Here we can do, what are the theories? What are our impressions on here? What are we not believing? That kind of thing. I think it makes it more fun. And to be honest, especially with both of these shows being out for so long, I don't think that people need the recap as much as they need like the overarching themes.
Yeah, because that's what people are here for. So make sure, if you are new here, follow us at Hot Mess Moments on Twitter. We post about all of our brand new episodes. We also post silly little thoughts here and there. Also, we'll be posting about some fun activities that we've got in the future, such as once we get to like season 3 of Lost, we'll be playing the Lost video game and doing some streams of that and stuff like that. And other fun stuff that we can plan. If you want to talk more about Lost, spoiler stuff, you can tweet at me at 8-Bit Dylan. We can have full-on conversations about this. If you tweet at me though, we'll figure out a place to talk. I don't want to tweet out any spoilers about Lost, especially, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
The DMs.
And the DMs. And then if you want to talk about the nanny, you can go check out Beth at Augusta 111.
Absolutely. And so, we'll check you guys out again next Thursday where we talk about Lost. But if you are also interested in our nanny content, then we'll see you on Tuesday with a brand new episode where we cover the nanny.
Yes. All right. We'll see you all next week. And until then, bye.
Bye-bye.